Yo, welcome back to Star Spangled Gamblers. I'm your host, Keen Dog. It is August, the dog days. By the time this hits, I think we'll be neck deep into the Democratic National Convention. Kamala Harris is officially Joe Biden's VP pick. And look at this murderer's row of savage political gamblers we've got with us. Zoltar.
What it is, what it was, what it will be.
Where'd you take your magic carpet to, bro?
Well, as you can see, when you make as much money as Zoltar makes on these political markets, you can buy your first summer home. I've bought mine on a mystery lake that I will not tell you because I don't want the haters to come and firebomb me. But I'm having a little vacay, but I always got time for my boys at Star Spangled Gamblers.
You know what? I think I'm the haters are going to be chirping in the DMs here about how you're like trash on a pontoon boat behind you. Mm-hmm. Can you confirm or deny whether or not you drink Keystone Light on pontoon boats?
No, but I got a nice little Mountain Dew right now. I didn't bring the boom boom on the flight with me. But if you look
I'll
right
do a
over
little
here,
boom boom.
Oh, there we go. Make some money, boys.
Let's do it.
Right here is where Patrick Swayze and Aaron, what's her name, did that little move. True story.
Dirty Dancing?
Yeah, right
nice.
there.
Dude, we love the Sways on this.
Actually, no.
Who else we got? Sound off, boys.
I don't know what this has to say about I'm in my basement while Zoltar is on a lake about our prowess in political gambling, but how's it going, everybody?
That's iSavage for those of you listening.
iSavage. Hey, is that a new mic, iSavage?
It is. You got a boat, I got a new mic. So
dude, that's pimp, dude. I like
there
it.
There we
go. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Every journey begins with a $70 purchase on Amazon, I guess.
That was the first move I made. I got a $40 headset and said, wow, we're really doing this.
And then life goes on. Well, iSavage, I wouldn't.
Now look at me.
Yeah.
Don't be so skittish about being in a basement. The next president of the United States is trolled regularly for being in the basement. By the way, I'm long Biden. Pratik, where are you?
Rhode Island.
What?
Has anything about you changed?
No, nothing.
Still getting hate mail for killing the tweet markets?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. A lot of anger out there.
Are you aware that I got a DM this week asking if you were like faking your quote, like autistic libertarian Spock act?
Well, I did get vaccinated.
Wait, what'd you say, PJ?
I said I did get vaccinated, so some form of autism is possible.
Do I dare ask what's behind that thought?
No.
When are we going to get the anti-vax rant from libertarian Spock here?
I'm not going there.
Bill Gates, dude. It's all conspiracy to track us.
Well, in defense of conspiracy theories, most of them have played out in the last couple of years. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we've seen some weird shit.
Yeah, and QAnon, they've been saying we're going to get kicked off Facebook and Twitter right before the election, and wouldn't you know it? Got the boot.
You know what? The fun of betting on politics is hanging out with lunatics. So, guys, you just make my day.
Digital patriots.
But where we go, we all go to the vice presidential selection. Kamala Harris is the pick. Does anyone care?
First of all,
we made such a big deal about this. Does anyone care?
First of all, got burned again on the VP market. It's definitely the devil's market. I was going with Domer's Val Deming's long shot to hopefully dig myself out of the hole that I dug for myself with Miss Minnesota, and Kamala just decapped me again. Devil's market.
Savage is gonna.
Did anyone make money on Kamala?
Dude, come on.
I've been basically saying this has been Kamala from the beginning. I'm going to take my victory lap. I had to cut into some of my potential winnings with a little bit of Susan Rice safety net because I didn't know if that was 100%. But other than that, to be, it's kind of funny to everybody. I'm getting DMs. Congrats on the call on Kamala. You were right on Kamala. This and that. And it's kind of weird to get props for just basically taking the strong position that it's going to be the most likely option the whole time.
Well, sometimes simplicity is the best.
Well, let me ask you this, Savage.
Yeah.
Did you panic at all when Rice got a little bumpy bump right before the announcement?
No, because I mean it kind of helped out because, like I said, I had a little bit of a hedge with her. So when that went up, that's just kind of when I sold, and then I didn't buy the cheapest notes possible on the way back down, but it pretty much worked out.
So you would have made money with Rice, but then you would have made much more with Harris.
That's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
What's your philosophy? Like, that's such a crazy moment when you're betting and you're pretty sure you got the market right. And you're like, oh shit, I have to start selling my hedge. I don't know. Like, what's your thought? What was your thought process? When were you like, okay, now I can start selling my Susan Rice hedge off of this information? And then you're exposed. And then you like really got to be right at that point. Like, that's the scariest and most exciting moment for me in a trade.
No, the thing that really made me comfortable in doing it, Kamala Harris's niece tweeted out that, hey, I can't tell you anything right now, but text first to Joe, whatever, 30330. And I don't think she would have said that if she didn't know that it was going to be some good news coming out. So that was it was still a risk, obviously, but that was where it was like, I think this is going to go this way.
Did you guys get the breaking news from the Biden text?
No.
The price started moving before, so I figured some people got it before I did, but it was about.
Yeah, well, many political gamblers will be familiar with this position, which is when breaking news is happening, but you're actually at work and you have to do something with your boss, and you want to tell him like, please just be quiet so I can run to my computer and see when the
got to take that L. Just take it. L.
Yeah, he's talking about some like legal matter, and I'm just in my head thinking, I wonder what the announcement is. I better not be in the next 5 minutes. And then as soon as I get out of the meeting, there it is. It's already 99 cents.
So relatable. PJ, can you, this is a podcast about predicting politics. So while there are some traders who make a lot of money predicting the present and predicting the past, I'm looking at you, Spinions here. Does anyone care? Like, are there any states where Kamala Harris is going to matter on the margins? Like, do you think that this is just a everyone versus Trump? What's going on here? What do we care? Let's answer that.
Look, I think there are two tradable insights. I think one is that it does give some insight into how Biden and the Biden campaign and the apparatus around him generally thinks about and approaches big political decisions. I've been quite critical of that. We covered that ground last time. I do think, incidentally, though, that they did a pretty remarkable job of preventing leaks. Like, as we talked about, really no one knew until the very end, as you can see by the fact that rice prices were quite high right up until the end. So I think that says something about their discipline. And
even looking back, there was no strong hints that I could see, except for what Savage just said about the niece. I picked up nothing.
No.
Yeah. But to answer the question more directly, I mean, look, I think it's probably a non-factor more than anything. I think the biggest story to look for is simply whether Kamala can be a disciplined running mate who is loyal, attacks in the right way, reinforces the message the right way. I think in her opening debut, again, although I'm critical and skeptical of her loyalty in the long term, I think so far she's been the running mate that Biden needs. So my betting strategy has not changed all that much.
I looked at this and I saw, just like I checked like weekend pricing, like Ohio R-1. North Carolina, the price for Democrats to win that in the presidential went up 3. Georgia and Texas, the price for Republicans went up 1. It didn't seem like the market really reacted that much to Kamala Harris being the pick.
What about Kamala for president? Did that bump up?
That was the trade of the year, dude.
Yeah.
What would that go from? What was that, like 2 cents or something?
It went from like 3 cents to 7.
Ooh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I jumped in on that, not as much as other people did, but some people made a triple up on a on a max bet almost.
Pratik, you I feel like you were the first trader to talk about that. And
that's basically a remix of the Pratik pick.
Yeah, I did that. I bought like 1,000 shares of Kamala at like 1 or 2, and it was a nice little insurance policy when I went to 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think paying 7-8 cents for that though is completely crazy.
Yeah, that's almost like 10%.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's kind of strange to think about it though, because definitely I wouldn't pay 6 or 7 for it now, but having paid 2 or 3 cents for it, it doesn't hurt you to hold it for a long time, because I think that price is going to stay pretty steady for probably more than a month, maybe even 2. Let Joe sneeze and it might go up to 14 cents. You know what I mean?
Let him stumble down a set of stairs or something, and everyone's going to panic.
Yeah, I mean, he bled from his eye during a debate at one point. I mean,
how did I miss that?
He has Ebola.
I remember that. He had the red eye. I remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think
don't forget his teeth fell out at one point too.
So yeah, I think there's value in holding.
Wait, but okay, important question here. Is Kamala Harris up at 6 or 7 cents to be the next president of the United States? Like, is that the same money that right now seems to be pumping up Trump's odds to win the election? Like, we were all just talking about before this podcast how the traders are giving higher and higher odds to Trump to win. Do you think the same people are coming in and buying Kamala Harris for president because they're on this conspiracy theory that Joe Biden's going to have an Ebola aneurysm and die or get killed by Hillary or something?
There's a very strong contingent of people, myself included, that think he's going to transition out of presidency before his 4 years are up, and maybe even before they start.
Yeah, but that's not the bet. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the idea behind it is you got people, a lot of the same people who will buy penny stocks who think they're going to become millionaires. If somebody sees the market and they go, oh my gosh, 8 cents for Hillary to run for president, or 6 cents for, something that happened to Joe Biden, they get the stars in their eyes, and you've got enough people buying. Mm-hmm. They're not buying 500 of those. They're buying as many as they can, as they can max out on, and thinking that that's, inflating the likelihood of it happening. But I really think it's people who they think they're going to, everybody's heard about people who have made 5-figure trades before, and they want to be that person.
I think in that vein, if you're going to go with that route, I actually think the better value is in Mike Pence for president. Right now it's trading at 2 cents. A 2 is probably high for me, but I'd be willing to take 1 cent shares there. And
don't forget with Pence, there's that wacky theory that Trump might elect him president. So Trump steps down, Pence becomes president, so that Pence can give him a pardon. So there's a little wacky conspiracy that direction too, because there's an argument that a president can't pardon himself. So the workaround would be to make vice president become president so he can pardon Trump.
Pratik, what's the non-conspiracy theory reason to make that trade? Like Trump will die?
Well, okay, so I think there are a couple of things. One is that there's, I think, way too much skepticism in the markets about whether or not Pence will even be Trump's running mate. I'll need to check the odds on that, but I think right now he's only trading at 92, 93 cents.
Yeah, there was a big push that Haley was going to get the vice president nod, and that Pence was getting set up by putting him in charge of COVID.
Yeah, so I think the more accurate odds of him being the running mate are 98, 99%. I don't think Trump's going to swap him out. So maybe
Trump has specifically said Pence has done a great job with COVID and he's sticking with them. So he'd have to pull a 180.
Yeah, so there's a very slight possibility that the president market might move once it becomes official that Pence is in fact the running mate. But I think beyond that, you're basically betting that between now and the election, either Trump will have some kind of a perceived health incident, or he might throw a tantrum and threaten to quit or drop out, or there's another scandal where people talk about replacing him. All you need is for it to go from 1 or 2 cents to 3 or 4, and you have a victory.
So, can I say something controversial?
Yes.
Do that on this podcast?
Go for it.
I think the whole would Trump replace Pence with Nikki Haley? There are a lot of different larks that feed into that, but I feel like this is one place. I don't really believe that many people in the modern world are brazenly racist and motivated by oh, I hate that person who looks different than me, let me be an asshole. But I do think that there are a lot of people who subtly think certain ways. I could totally see Donald Trump's brand of 2020 racism being no, just because if on some subconscious level, him being no, I think a white man can get this done. He's not going to be Mike's not going to be intimidated by I could totally see his batshit crazy obviously pseudo racist brain operating that way. That am I sounding like a lunatic? Am I going to get canceled for saying that?
I think if you are betting on anything Republican politics today and not factoring in the reality of race, I think that's a mistake. We unfortunately.
I'm sorry, my son is interrupting. Daddy's betting on politics, son. We got to give me a couple minutes, okay? Okay, I love you. We'll love you more.
Put that on the highlight reel.
All right, continue. I'm sorry, Pratik.
Yeah, no, we unfortunately we didn't get into it on the pod, but I think there was a huge opportunity in the Tennessee Republican primary where it's pretty hard to topple an establishment candidate as it is. But I think the fact that the challenger to Haggerty was an Indian American absolutely was a factor. And I think that accounts for the fact that Haggerty not only won, but won by a comfortable margin.
And I think that, what you're saying too, it goes to the other side of what I think that what you brought up earlier, honestly, Keen, is around the opposite of where Kamala is going to help Joe out. And I've been saying this for a long time, since I've been really advocating that the African American running mate pick is the best move. Having a black candidate on the Democrat ticket increases Democratic turnout. It's been pretty established.
Fact.
And I think that's going to be the biggest, she's not giving him a geographic regional bump. She's giving him turnout in areas that, in a demographic that he's got 92, that Trump has 92, 93% disapproval from. So, increasing turnout slightly in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Now we're talking about
it's a rising tide to lift all boats.
But what about the fact that she called him a racist in the earlier debates? That girl was me. Which, by the way, you can still buy the "That Girl Was Me" T-shirts from Kamala if you guys are looking for a good ironic political T-shirt to wear.
I mean, I think that I think the people who are bringing that up are Chris Dodd and Republicans who want it to be an issue when it's really not going to be.
And Zoltar.
People criticize each other in debates. I think that there's probably even a way to spin that eventually to say, I need somebody to help me move my thinking.
That's true.
That kind of thing.
To smooth out the rougher edges.
Here's the $1 billion question. Because first of all, like, as much as I want to disagree with you, I kind of agree with you, Savage, that at the end of the day, not a lot of people watch those debates. So at the end of the day, not a lot of people remember them. But where are we on this conspiracy theory that Kanye West is going to siphon off enough black votes that, like,
Can I just say that gets my early Modelo Award for the most unexpected, exciting market of PredictIt.
Like anything Kanye touches?
Yeah, people were looking at like paint stores in like Wisconsin. And,
that was awesome.
And I was cross-referencing Kanye's signature on sneakers to the election form. It just got wacky in ways you would never anticipate.
Yeah. That goes to what Pratik was saying too. Also, to be honest, I think that there's so many Republicans who really think that this was going to be the key. Like, all we have to do is put a black guy as a third party, and it's going to siphon all these voters away. It's not just that there's the overt or even implicit racism involved. It's that they have no idea of the community that they're trying to do outreach to or draw votes from. Because if you really thought that was going to work, that really shows you have no idea, and it shows why you get such low turnout and support from this community. Because there's a little bit more nuance and complexity to people than rapper vote for him.
But did you who made money on the Kanye market so far? I made a nice little chunk. Did anyone else?
Action in the game. Yeah, it's been, aside from VP, that's the only place where you could, hear some breaking news and make some money. So
So the formula I used, which was pretty simple, was check Twitter for guys collecting signatures, and a couple of them took photos of the thing they signed, and it was, statement of candidacy, had Kanye's signature on it. So my thought process was, if you're paying a professional group to collect signatures for Kanye, it's probably going to be able to do that, and it paid out. So for the remaining states, I've been kind of busy getting ready for this trip, but I would suggest the same strategy of just look on Twitter for people, tweeting about how they signed the statement of candidacy. And then if there's actually a group out there collecting signatures, then that's a good sign that he's going to be on the ballot.
Well, I was going to say, I have it on from a good source, too, that the de facto campaign manager behind Kanye is a seasoned Republican political operative.
Ooh, you got some inside info.
Do we buy that he's being funded by, like, the Trump operation?
Breaking news.
I don't think that it's necessarily funded, but there's definitely adjacent people who are support. I mean, you met with Kushner. I mean, that's not even like a conspiracy. That's confirmed on both sides.
No, I think they're definitely helping grease the wheels on his candidacy.
The thing with what you're talking about, those Zoltar, is you got to make sure that while you're betting on these things, that you are aware of how many signatures is necessary, because it's going to be easier in some states than others. You got to make sure.
Not only that, a lot of times they'll get enough signatures, but you got to realize a lot of them are going to get disqualified. So if the threshold's like 7,000 and they come in with 7,200, there's a good chance, a big chunk of them. And there was a bit of a rule cuck situation of, does he have to submit it and it actually gets accepted so he's on the ballot, or does he just have to like physically hand the form? And on the last market, it was, the way I read it was, he just literally has to submit it. It doesn't have to be quote unquote legally accepted. But these newest ones say he has to actually be on the ballot, so they have to actually get the valid, legally acceptable signatures, which means if you have one person sign in the same handwriting, 20 different names, they'll nix a lot of them. And historically, there's a good chunk of signatures that do get removed from the ballot. But again, I think it's Kanye. You got professional people collecting these signatures. I don't think it's going to be hard for them to make.
Are you guys long everywhere? Like, are you long him making? I don't even remember. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with these weird Kanye making markets.
These are high maintenance markets. These ones for sure.
No,
where are you at on these?
No, it's, you know what? Those are buy the rumor, sell the news type markets. The best way to make money in what happened this week was, he submitted ballots and the market went up, but then the reality of what Zoltar was saying is just because he submitted on the ballots, he submitted the signatures, just because he submitted the signatures. So it went way up when it was tweeted that he submitted signatures to Iowa. I'm going to do some Iowa, Minnesota. But then, then it came back down and it was like, that doesn't guarantee anything. So, it's really, you got to play the swings and,
Well, do you know how many signatures above the threshold he submitted?
Not off the top of my head.
No, yeah.
I feel like the person who's been tracking this the closest is actually our friend Flip over at Old Bull TV. His Twitter account has become like a Kanye ballot signature accounting.
A lot of hatred directed his. Schadenfreude. What's that German word for delight?
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going his way because he went strong on Kanye. Kanye is not going to be able to submit as many signatures as he wants, and he read it as legally saying accepted as in legally accepted, whereas I just read it as he physically accepted the signatures, which ended up being the right interpretation.
That's why I probably know I said probably at least two things that were close to inaccurate, because in the back of my head I'm going, shit, everybody who's following Flip knows way more about this than I do right now. So so apologies for anybody who has been combing over this more. I
always have more respect for the people that put their picks out there publicly ahead of time than the keyboard tough guys who tell you after, I had Kamal the whole time.
I was playing the swings.
Yeah. Even though I said Susan Rice, I still had a bunch of Kamal at 2 cents. It's like, dude, tell us ahead of time or it doesn't count.
Well, I was going to say, I'm for all the reasons mentioned, I'm staying out of the Virginia, Iowa, and Minnesota markets, but I do think there's money to be made, easy money in the two markets on who will be the third place in the presidential vote and who will be fourth place.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, buddy.
So now,
so is Kanye in there in that hunt?
All right, wait. Don't tell him, Zoltar. What do you think Kanye's odds are right now to get third place in the presidential election? What do you think?
Okay, now this is cold turkey. I swear my life, I haven't even looked.
Okay.
How many people are in the whole thing? How many people are in it?
You got everybody. You got
every dog catcher,
Green Party, Libertarian, Kanye.
Is it 10 or more, or less than 10?
Call it 5.
Okay, 5. I would say
it's about 10.
Yeah.
Kanye's gonna get more than his actual odds. I see his actual odds are probably 7. I think he's at 15.
And how about fourth?
Fourth, I would say is probably around the same 10.
So in the third place, Kanye is trading at 8%. To get fourth place, he's at 18.
Oh,
yeah, that's not happening.
So who's the favorite to get third? Some independent.
So third is
Libertarian.
Joe Jorgensen. Yeah, the Libertarian, and then fourth, the front runner is Howie Hawkins, the Green Party.
Dude, I gotta have less meetings with the boss so I can make those trades.
It was ridiculous.
This is such a no-brainer because it's like at the end of the day, these candidates that no one gives a shit about, like at least the libertarians and like Greens, like they have some sort of party apparatus. They have like
there's always
something to jump off of.
There's always the Starbucks college kids that'll just vote libertarian so they can tell everyone they're a libertarian. They don't even know who the candidate is.
But they have some sort of organization. Like it might be a joke. Like the Libertarian Convention was basically a 4-day long meme. But like they had people to put it together. They have people to go knock on doors. Like there's no fucking way Kanye is going to get more votes than the Libertarian.
Yeah, but if the Republicans are secretly helping him out, you never know.
That's a conspiracy theory.
I would love to see. I mean,
just confirmed.
Libertarians are on the ballot in California, and Kanye Kanye's not. I mean, that should tell you right there how many more votes that they've got potentially in their pool than he does.
I think buying Jorgensen at 79% for third place is a pretty safe bet. I'm going to bet big there.
And you know what? There's people out there.
That.
There's people out there who have researched every state that Kanye is eligible for, how many he still has a potential to get the ballot on, and they've already figured out that California is or is not play, or whatever other big states like New York. So he might mathematically have no chance as far as I know. So
yeah, no, I was going to say too, in the fourth place market, there is actually even more reliable money there. I mean, you can buy Jorgensen no at 90%. I mean, I don't know who could possibly get third and knock her out of that. I think Hawkins at 71% is a good buy. And the idea that Kanye has an 18% chance of getting fourth, I think is crazy. I actually originally got in there at bought nose at 65%, but I think it's definitely worth continuing to get in there.
Is that
an official Pratik pick?
Yeah.
Here's the best reason to bet on Joe Jorgensen. The best reason, this is where I'm going to say that my biases speak for the entire planet, and that's like the biggest mistake you can make as a gambler. But there are so many Republicans that don't like Donald Trump, and they're in states like California or Illinois or New York who are going to be like, well, I don't want to vote. Like, I have all these bones to pick with the Democratic Party, and my vote doesn't really matter anyway, so I'll just vote for the Libertarian and pat myself on the back. There's going to be runoff to Joe Jorgensen that way that I don't think Kanye West will have. Or the Greens, for that matter.
No.
One question I'll throw out there. So what would happen if either Trump or Biden die before the election? And I ask because if they die, do they remain on the ballot? And that could be significant here, because what if they die and they're on the ballot and people still vote for them, or write them in, for that matter?
Get Domer and AG on this podcast. I'm sure
that is 3D chess right there. That is a good move. I didn't even think about that, but legally, I think once they're printed, it's going to be tough to take them off. And wasn't there all sorts of stories historically about politicians that died and they vote them in anyway as a protest vote?
I don't know. Savage, you had a thought?
You know what? There's going to have to be something that, who was it? The senator from Missouri, didn't he? You know what? I can't even go out and say it, but I know it happened where somebody died.
And they voted him in.
Days before election, and their name still counted on the ballot, and then his wife became...
so that would be, if someone could figure out when that cutoff date is for when they put someone on the ballot or take it off, that could be a gold mine.
So I guess the thought here is, if you think either Trump or Biden, I guess not even die, if they just will withdraw from the race for whatever reason, maybe you want to get 1 cent shares on them in the third and fourth place markets.
This is definitely our lotto pick podcast. I feel like all we're doing is talking about weird shit that could turn into an ATM.
That's because there's nothing to bet on until November.
You know what? I'll say this, regardless of your politics, if you've got a serious gambling problem the way we do, we should all be pulling for a Biden administration, because clearly PredictIt has decided that they don't want to deal with the regulators at the CFTC, and they're just hoping for a clean slate in January. Because
you know what else is annoying? PredictIt has gotten much better at writing the rules. So the rule cuck panther has been missing in action, and she was one of my favorites.
Yeah, but it's all these elections. It's hard to have a rules cuck on an election.
Well, yeah, and they keep they learn from their mistakes, unfortunately. So a lot of these markets are becoming clearer.
Except for, what was that 2 weeks ago, where they put the wrong party in the rules versus what was in the title, and screwed everybody.
Well, tell them about that one for those who missed it. Tell them what happened.
Yeah, so that was the margin of victory in the Kansas market, and they had, in the rules, it said, what will the margin of victory be for the Republicans? No, in the title it was for Republicans, but then for
the rules it was Democrats.
You know what? Yeah, we're gonna have to edit that out, because I it was one way or the other. And I can't.
No, sometimes we're wrong on this podcast. That's part of the game, Savage.
I thought it was a different state. I thought it was like Kansas in the.
No. It was like they switched it was like a direct switcheroo of the.
So then the rule cuck became, which one do you trust? You trust the title, or do you trust the rules? I would go with the rules, but I heard they switched the rules so it matched the title.
I feel like usually when that question gets asked is when you take out a hammer and start smashing up Adderall pills and rolling up $100 bills. And then I get a lot of texts from you at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, with like random research.
No, but basically it was the margin of victory. The market ended up being for, what was the margin of victory for Democrats versus Republicans. And, the top bracket just went bananas because it went from being this is impossible to this is what's going to happen. So... because
that's great.
It was, yeah.
Well, let's cover one more tight race before we let the boys go back to their lives.
Hit my jet skis.
And drink those Keystone Lights on that pontoon boat behind you. That's where I want to be. I got into this market really early, and I'm sort of out of it now, but I want to talk about Massachusetts, where Joe Kennedy Jr. is seemingly primarying old progressive stalwart Ed Markey for no apparent reason other than ambition.
Is that redhead who had the spittle on his mouth?
Dude, he's a good-looking guy, though.
Yeah.
He's
always bet on the ginger.
Dude. By the way, okay, this is a real story about Joe Kennedy. There was the day he was sworn in like 2012, and I was still a staffer on the Hill, and I was like, "What? You take your photo with your hand on the Bible next to John." It was John Boehner was the speaker then, and everyone swears in, and there's the picture of their staff and their family around them, and Joe Kennedy and his wife were in front of me, and they were the two best looking people I've ever seen in my life. And I said it so loud because, when you're just in a state of shock when you see people who are like that fucking smoking hot, attractive. Right. And they just like looked at me. It was a very strange moment. Anyway, I got in this market early. I took Markey at like 39, and admittedly I sold when this flipped into like the 60s and 70s. But are any of you trying to trade? The short story is that Kennedy's name drew a lot of heat early on, and people got a big boner for a Kennedy retaking the Kennedy Senate seat from Ed Markey. And it turns out it's really hard to unseat an incumbent senator, which sometimes people forget. And now it looks like Markey's in post position to win this race. But I don't know if you guys are betting on it still, but I've kind of taken my profits and ran away. You guys have a hot take on this?
I did the same as you. I had a little bit when he was under 50, and I've sold now because I think that no matter what happens that night, it's going to be close. At least that's what I feel like it's going to be close. So I think that, it'll go one way or the other before then. So I'm going to sit out and see what happens as results start coming in.
Markey put out a really good closing ad. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it featured it actually made him look very good, like someone with a lot of energy who is not has a lot to get done. I think ideologically he covered all his bases, and he has prominent endorsements or footage of prominent endorsements from everyone from Warren to Obama. I'm not in the market now, but I think that probably buying Markey at 70 cents is probably a worthwhile bet. So I think I'm willing to get in there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, I feel like politics is like, if you're selling anyone anything, whether it's a movie script or a pack of gum or why you should vote for me, there has to be some sort of like why here, why now argument. Why should I buy what you're selling? And it seems like Joe Kennedy doesn't really he doesn't have an argument for why here, why now? Like he's not to the left of Ed Markey. He doesn't have any of the like race, gender identity shit that's really hot and, contested Democratic primaries now. So why?
Ginger dude.
You know what? His grandparents probably had that going for him.
Yeah,
but,
that's funny.
I mean, in terms of the Kennedy mythology too, which I think is probably what accounts for a lot of the money on PredictIt. I mean, that kind of has been tested in recent years. I mean, number one, Ted Kennedy's seat itself went to the Republicans in 2010. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. And then in terms of the younger Kennedys, Patrick Kennedy in Rhode Island turned out to be a complete flop. Now, granted, he had his own issues, but I just don't think the Kennedy brand is what it is and enough in isolation to knock out a reasonably popular Democratic incumbent.
What dynasty is still a dynasty? I mean, Jeb Bush. Ooh.
Clintons.
Woo.
Epstein's. All of them murked.
Not that I could think of. No. No. And particularly, you made this point a couple times before. Politics is not what it was. Being a veteran doesn't go as far as it used to, and I don't think being a Kennedy goes as far as it used to. And I think that Markey has really upped his liberal credentials during this primary. I think that people really go, man, this guy's one of the more liberal members of of the Senate right now. And I think that he's coming out really good at the end of this. So I think that, just being a Kennedy, that's not going to go as far as it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
One of the boys had a really good tweet about this. Nihar Sinha, who hits us from time to time. I actually want to read it word for word. Yo, what's up? What's up, we call him 9 Inch. What's up, 9 Inch? He had a really good tweet about this, about like what people are keeping score for now. And he said, one cultural change in recent decade is people now want politicians to behave more like celebrities and celebrities to behave more like politicians. I doubt anyone in the 80s cared how Van Halen used their platform or wanted Tip O'Neill to dunk on anyone in Congress.
Right.
And maybe that's the distinction that we've been failing to make here about why some of these old generational credentials don't seem to matter right now, is that people want cultural figures running for office.
Also I was thinking about, imagine if this election turned into like a Bush Gore thing where we didn't know the results for another like 2 weeks while they're counting chads.
Probably will.
Like it would be like Mad Max out there, like chaos, pandemonium, riots. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, but that's what's going to happen.
Well, it might. Yeah, the mail-in might turn into another debacle, but
it's going to take forever.
My God, yeah. Like just thinking about how civil we were back then, where it was kind of like, okay, well, whatever the Supreme Court says is fine with us. Like, no, that would not fly today.
There are a lot of Scott Supaks out there who still remember Bush v. Gore, and
yeah, Gore kind of. That was kind of before I became a political junkie, but Gore seemed like he just kind of accepted the results as like whatever.
On the dynasty point, actually, we have a number of mailbag items, but one dynasty question that is being litigated this time is in Georgia, where Joe Lieberman's son is running, Matt Lieberman, for the Democratic nomination, for what that's worth. But we also got a number of mail items on the who the front runners might be in 2024 on the Republican side. And I was quite surprised, actually, how many people wrote in that they think Don Jr. is going to be the front runner. I personally think it's. I don't think the Trumps have it in them to be a political.
What's Nikki Haley at?
There aren't any odds, but people were just speculating. I always thought early on that actually the most formidable person in the Trump world who might carry on a family legacy might be Ivanka. I don't think she has an opportunity anymore, but I think the notion that Don Jr. could be a presidential candidate, I think, is craziness.
I don't buy that.
Skeptically, I've had this conversation before. I don't know how strong I would say this, but I'm a little bit on the opposite side of that. Just seeing what the underbelly of what's driving politics on the right now is what Don Jr. brings to the table in terms of just the priority is owning the libs. The priority is being bombastic. He says all the right things in terms of
attacking the press.
Yeah, being on this side of the cultural war, and that is a big part of the cultural war now is being against the press. And I think that if he were to jump into a primary and say the exact same things that got his dad through the Republican primary,
imagine Trump.
That much isn't going to change in 4 years. So I think that he's going to be a presence and still.
Yeah, and if Trump wins, he gets 4 years. Then those Republicans will still like Trump, and Trump Jr. signs up. Okay, then you got a legitimate shot of him being the next one to go.
Okay, this is where I'm going to really indulge in conspiracy theories. We all have them, and this is mine. And I said on this podcast before that I feel like America's sort of run out of runway to be like a young nation full of optimism and endless opportunity. Like it feels like we're sort of a European country now where there are permanently disenfranchised people with agendas.
We're getting very close to third world behavior too.
Yeah. And so us righties love to say we love to make fun of looters that people are calling they're just looting for social justice. Well, here's another thing. I think that there's a permanently disenfranchised group of people that the Trump family will be able to control like little dictators, like a permanently angry and, ready to go, ready to brawl kind of white working class. I think that's a thing. And I think that Trump will always be able to win those people if they're on the ballot, or at least for the next 5-10 years.
If you hate CNN, you're probably going to vote Trump.
Yeah. So sorry, Pratik, you just got fucking piled on.
I think you guys are totally off base here. I mean, I think first of all, I think Trump's going to lose. So that's one question here.
Yeah,
but whether or not Trump loses now or he leaves after a second term, I mean, I think people underestimate how much of the loyalty to Trump is simply has to do with the fact that he's the president right now. He's the guy in the arena. A lot of people are just loyal Republicans. And I think the Trumps are basically going to go the way of the Palins. I think people will defend them, get behind them now. But the minute Trump is out, he'll have like a fan club and they'll be able to sell books and maybe make TV appearances. But I mean, the idea that the other thing I'll mention here too is I think saying that Don Jr. is a viable presidential candidate, I think doesn't give Trump enough credit for just how much work and how much of a brand building exercise went into Trump becoming a viable political figure.
His public speaking, don't forget that, dude. His rallies are something else.
Yeah, I mean, I wish PredictIt would create a 2024 market now, because I think Don Jr.'s would be about as high as he's ever going to get right now.
Well, he's like an experiment. He's the Republican experiment with a cultural figure, which like Republicans have sort of become more and more culturally irrelevant since the 80s. And he's just like not a good cultural figure, I guess. I don't know. I kind of like Ted Cruz to make a comeback in 2024, but
yeah, he's picking up steam. But he's probably going to be one of the favorites.
I mean, I mean, we want to put a pin in it, but you know, I think that everything that Pratik just said about Trump Jr. was what everybody was saying about Trump. You know what I'm saying? 5 years ago, and I honestly wish you were right, because I don't think that it's healthy for people to have this. You know, really just this, I mean, I don't want to say it in a disparaging way, but I mean, it really is, you know, like a cult, you know, a cult of personality type thing at a minimum.
Yeah.
I don't think that mindset is going to go away from people, because it's been so much of what their arguments have been based on is defending this mindset and defending, you know, these positions. I don't think people are going to say, wow, that was a big mistake. I'm changing the way I think now. I really think it's going to be constant, unfortunately.
I mean,
I hope you're right.
If human life is storytelling and politics is storytelling, it always makes really good storytelling to have like a physical embodiment of an idea. And that's what really great presidents do, is like they become the physical image of like what people want and how they view themselves and how they view the country. And Trump has that for some people. Last question before we send are we going to be buying any dips during the conventions? I wanted to get to this, but we're sort of running out of time here. The two party conventions are coming. Usually it sort of gooses the polling for either party.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like what to look for at these conventions that might cause a dip or a spike.
Yeah. Anyone want to take the rock?
Just off the top of my head, I think like a nice solid Biden gaffe, you know, like just completely loses train of thought during a speech. That might be good for a quick dippy dip. But otherwise, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be wholly unimpressive. So I think that might be a narrative of how little of an impact that it'll have versus, you know, how much a convention usually has. Because, I mean, I don't think it's going to be as bad as that libertarian convention was, but it's not going to be a spectacle, right? And being that the Democrats are going first without having a spectacle, the narrative might be, we're not getting what we want out of this. Add to that, I think that the PredictIt's a little bit Trump friendly right now with the prices. So that, you know, I think that there might be honestly if you are confident in a Biden win, I think that there's probably going to be some places that you might get a good price on them. Maybe.
And from what I hear, it's all going to be prepackaged, produced like Hollywood stuff. So there's not really a lot of room for mistakes to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's room for Trump to excite people, you know, but you know, maybe that's already priced in right now. I don't know. I'm hoping that there's a little price disruption that we can exploit.
I got to find out what Trump plans on doing, but I could see Trump having a nice flub that gives him a dip.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I hope if PredictIt is watching that they bring back the mention markets, because that could be worthwhile.
Be K-Dog's milk and toast.
Yes, they took my moneymaker, bro.
Yeah. I'm watching three things, though. I number one, I agree with Zoltar. I think any gaffes, or especially indications that Biden is aging and might not make it, I think could move the markets. But I think two other points I would make. One, I actually think the week before the convention is very important and critical, and people don't pay attention to it. But that's basically when the platform discussions happen. And if you want to see really...
Don't care.
Well, I mean, I think that's the mentality, but I think it's the wrong mentality, because I think that's really where you get an indication of where the strength of the internal party apparatus is, and ideologically what the direction of the party is. So I think that that's a good insight.
Have you been in that game?
Yeah. I'll share a blog post. I did about
look
this
for a blog
after.
post going forward from here.
But the final thing, I want to agree very much with the point, Alex, you made in your initial recording, that this is absolutely an opportunity for someone to break out and become a national figure. Now, I think that'll be a little bit harder to do this time around, being an online convention. But if someone can figure out how to take this new paradigm, which is internet based and not on TV, and have a breakthrough moment the way Obama did when he was speaking on behalf of John Kerry, I think that could give a real edge to someone longer term.
Yeah, the opening acts here, this is huge. This is like getting to play Coachella before Beyonce comes out. Like, if you get to be one of those 2 or 3 speakers who introduces...
Like Nine Inch Nails at Woodstock.
But, I think that you're going to get some goodwill is going to come out of it. I think, overall, there's going to be, some positive vibes of from the press of saying, because it's going to be... hopefully, from what I'm predicting, a message of positivity coming out of it, and I think that's gonna be the media kind of message of Democrats put on a positive convention. The Democrats had a positive message coming out of it, what people want to hear. But I just don't think it's going to be as impactful, just because of the audience isn't going to be huge. You're not going to see roaring crowds. You're not going to see moments.
The excitement.
Yeah, so that's what I think.
It's like sports without a crowd.
It's not like live, huge arena. Anything can happen. It's more prepackaged. Everyth's already been done.
Yeah,
they're hitting play on the VCR. So
bet that way is if you think that a positive media message on it is going to move the markets, then that way, if you think that the unimpressiveness of it is going to depress prices, but you really have to cut through the natural market forces anyway of
it would have been interesting. It would have been interesting if Trump went with the crowds and Biden went with no crowds to see which one of those. But now it sounds like both are going with no crowds. So I think it's gonna be nothing burger.
You're killing my boner, Savage, but I think you're kind of right.
Yeah, I think that boner needs to be killed on this one.
Yeah, it's like sports without watching these NBA and MLB games without crowds. It's not the same. And these conventions, I'm sure, will be the same way too. Do you guys want to give a smooch to our listeners on our way out here?
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Dave Schwartz, who won the mini Zoltar for the Can You Guess Which Market? The market that he correctly guessed was Trump pardoning himself. And I think it was at like 18 cents at the time. Now it's up to 24 cents. So if you guys were able to figure that out, congrats. And I still think it's a strong market to hold on to, because New York hates Trump. That's why he moved. So the New York Attorney General has a big target, and she's openly said and campaigned on the fact she's going after Trump. And don't forget, the Supreme Court just said, Trump, you got to release those tax records. So the AG with a handful of those tax records, God knows what she's going to be able to come up with. There's a very good chance Trump says, screw it, I'm going to pardon myself in the future, and gives himself a pardon right before he leaves office.
Congratulations, Derek Schwartz. PJ, you want to say goodbye
to
the boys?
Yeah, I want to mention really quickly one market. There's been a lot of volatility in the Mark Esper market on whether or not he'll be the next cabinet member out. I think the markets are overreacting to recent news. I think there's no question Esper and Trump are not happy with each other, but I think Esper is going to make it through the election. And I think if Trump does not get reelected, he'll probably stick around till the end. I
want to use my time here to disavow Zoltar's QAnon shout out from the beginning, in case I ever want to run for office one day and don't want to get Karen Bast. By making it clear that I disagree. But
about Pizzagate. The pizza code is real.
Disavow all of it. So, but other than that, you guys are good guys, and I think that the markets I would just tell everybody to keep an eye on right now. Most of what would be considered swing states are probably underpriced right now, and look at, as everything we said earlier, look at some places like Georgia, Arizona.
Yep.
What do you guys,
yeah.
real quick, what do you guys think of Texas? That one's getting a lot of chatter. You think Texas will finally flip?
I'd rather be on the Biden side than the Trump at this point at these prices. All right, Savage, you're the man for coming and joining us today. We get chirped by the boys every time you're on the show. So, from the boys to the boys, you are one of the boys. I'm Keen Dog. This is Star Spangled Gamblers. If you've made it this far, clearly you are my best friend. And what my best friends do for all of us here at Star Spangled Gamblers is they go to www.starspangledgamblers.com/support. And we've got a few ways for you to support this podcast. By the way, thank you for all of you who already have. This podcast is paid for until the end of the year. You can join our Patreon group. You can send us like a quick Venmo payment. These things cost about $60 a podcast. So if you want to sponsor a podcast, that's the going rate. Or you can we've got a great promotional link. If you have friends who are psychopaths like we are and like binge more C-SPAN than Modelo.
You're telling your friends about how you can bet against Trump or for Biden?
We've got a great promotional link.
Yeah, just sign up through our link. You get $20.
Yeah, free, $20 free. We got a great promotional link. So these are all the ways that you can support Star Spangled Gamblers.
You also send us tips if you got any good tips.
Yeah, so get the word out, www.starspangledgamblers.com/support. You guys are awesome. This is our favorite thing we do. See you next time.
Don't eat pot cookies.
Always selling 90.